Hi everyone, this is Tulsi and welcome to the Rotunda Roundup, the Rotunda Scholars brand new podcast. I am the communications director for the Rotunda Scholars Program, and for this very first episode of the podcast, I'm so excited to be welcoming on our fellow Dylan Hudson, our program director, Nikole Juarez, to talk about the Evolve Lecture Series, a new program that we have brought back from pre-COVID days to bring speakers to campus that emphasize what it means to be a world changer in our ethos, E cubed, explore, empower, and evolve. And our very first speaker, which we welcome on campus a few days ago, was Abena Marfo, the former Rotunda Scholars Fellow and extraordinary leader on campus. Graduating in 2022 after serving 2 years as fellow and as a peer counselor, Abena graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Human Rights, a Bachelor of Science in Health and Society, and a Bachelor of Science in Sociology. She ended up moving to Atlanta, where she went to Emory University's Rollins School of Health and graduated with a Master's of Public Health in Global Health. Currently, she is a program evaluator at Prism Health North Texas, moving back here after graduating with her MPH, as she previously was an intern at the CDC and at the American Cancer Society. And you can learn more about her on her LinkedIn as well. And so before I welcome back up our program director, Nikole, who will then lead us to Dylan, who will then lead us to the actual recording of the speaker series, I want to let you know a little bit about the podcast. This podcast, I hope over the course of the next few months, will help you get some insight into our program and the very people that make it possible. We won't have a definitive or rigid uploading schedule, and we're still trying to see exactly what we want to do. But one thing that we are for certain is that we want students to be the voice of our program. We want to have peer counselors, peer upperclassmen liaisons, leadership, professional staff, different supporters on campus to come on and make this experience wonderful, and even some scholars as well. So I hope you enjoy the Rotunda Roundup and this very important and special first episode. I'm going to give it over to Nikole to introduce and talk about our speaker a little bit more.
Hi guys, it's Nikole Juarez, your director of the Rotunda Scholars Program. I'm just here to tell y'all an introduction of our keynote speaker for the Evolve Lecture. So before I hand it over to Abena, I'll go ahead and tell y'all a little bit about her. So welcome and thank you everyone for joining us for our Evolve Speaker Series inaugural lecture. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nikole Juarez, director of the Rotunda Scholars Program. The Evolve Speaker Series stemmed from a desire to showcase innovative members of the community and celebrate their inspiring stories of persistence. In partnership with the First Generation Initiative, we wish to kick off SMU's First Generation College Week celebration by honoring and elevating one of our very own First Gen trailblazers. Through tonight's lecture and the ones to come, I hope to shine light on often overlooked voices and inspire you all with their stories. Although we at times may feel discouraged, small, disempowered, or like no one else could possibly relate, your actions are not in vain, and you would be surprised by how many you are uplifting along the way. You too are creating a trail for those to come, and even the smallest actions can create ripple effects for the years to come. So in thinking of tonight's keynote speaker, she is an incredible SMU alum whose trail of impact has left an impression on so many of our students, staff, faculty, and programs. I think about her short time here at SMU. She was known as a Rotunda Scholar, Dallas County Mustang Scholar, founding member of the First Generation Association, which is a student org for first-gen students, Engaged Learning Fellow, Human Rights Fellow, African Student Association President, McNair Scholar, RA, Student Ambassador, a David S. Huntley Leadership Award recipient, an M Award winner, and so much more. She is a Mustang through and through, and now continues to be groundbreaking. Yet, even with the endless list of accolades, it is not her accomplishments that she is remembered by, but rather her generosity, empathy, humility, and strength she so selflessly shared with anyone and everyone. Although, as her former supervisor, I may be biased in my view, I am certain my opinions on tonight's speaker are widely shared amongst many individuals here tonight. In line with that view, we could not think of a better way to truly describe our speaker's impact than by sharing a story of just how far her reach continues to influence us today. Before bringing up our keynote speaker, I would like to invite Dylan Hudson, our current Rotunda Fellow, President Scholar, and soon-to-be first-gen graduate, to share a bit about our speaker's trail of impact.
My name is Dylan Anthony Hudson. I am the Rotunda Program Fellow for the 24-25 school year. I am very excited to be talking to you today about the speaker series. This is our very first inaugural Evolve speaker series. So with a little bit of insight on that, we really wanted to partner with the First Generation Association here on campus to highlight first gen voices, as well as Rotunda Scholars alumni. The Rotunda Scholars Program in this iteration has only been around for a handful of years. So it was really, really exciting to be able to bring back a speaker who not only helped found First Generation Association here on SMU's campus, but also was one of the very first peer counselors in this iteration of what the program is today. Abena Marfo was also the Rotunda Fellow when I was a first year. So I'm very excited to be welcoming her back, especially in this podcast format. Some little insight on Abena. As I said, when I was a first year, I walked into ACE and they were giving tours, and who do I see? Abena Marfo, with her smiling face, with her welcoming arms. She could make anybody feel at home. And after driving 19 hours from South Carolina to Dallas, being an out-of-state student, being a first-gen student, I felt right at home as soon as I saw her and saw the Rotunda Scholars Program. And throughout the year, I would watch her and I would watch the staff, and she had an amazing talent to make anyone be a part of her community from the moment she met them. So as the Rotunda Fellow, I'm very, very excited to say that Abena is not only a friend, not only a leader, a past leader of this organization that I'm now leading, but also she's a mentor. While she was at Emory, she has helped me many a times through Zoom calls, through phone calls, given me advice on this new position, and has even been a resource to this day. And I really hope you all enjoy her story. So for all of you that could not join us at the Evolve Lecture Series, I introduce to you Abena Marfo.
Oh my goodness. You guys want to make me cry, and I'm not even a crier. Okay. I'm very informal. So I like to and also I'm very tall, so I don't want to bend out. So hi. First things first, I'm gonna need my phone, or else I'm gonna spiral and cry and forget things, and I don't want to do that here. So first things first, I want to personally thank everybody that's in this room. I want to thank you guys for even showing up. I, for one, know that today was probably one of the longest days for a lot of people, especially the students. A lot of you have probably been up since 6 a.m., 3 a.m. So I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to even come and listen to me. Because I'm you could probably just listen to this on Spotify when it gets uploaded later. But you're here in person. But I want to really thank Nikole, first of all, for continuing to always reach out to me and email me and just invite me to things like this. It still blows my mind every day that she's still a part of my life, because she was just such a pivotal moment. And even though she was here for 3 years, it feels like she was here for the 4 I was here. And so Nikole, thank you for inviting me back. I also want to thank Chris. Thank you so much as well for partnering with Rotunda and continuing to push the First Gen Initiative. I think it's so important, and the work that you guys are doing here at SMU is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. So thank you for all the work that's been done. And then finally, the Rotunda staff, Dylan, Gracie, Tulsi, Maria, everyone that is here and everyone that might not be here, but the work that you guys have done, like I keep saying, Rotunda has gotten a facelift, okay? I go on that Instagram and I'm like, yeah, we got it down, okay? So I am so proud of you guys. I remember you guys coming your freshman year, and now to see you grow, but also grow with Rotunda is a blessing, and I'm so glad to be here to see it. But enough about that. Let's get into it. So as everybody said, my name's Abena. And I just want to start off by saying I'm very informal, as you can tell. I like to move around. I like to talk. And I also want this to be a conversation. Please talk back at me. Don't make me stand here by myself, looking crazy. But please talk back at me. And there's going to be a time for questions. But I just really want to start off by saying that You guys have probably read my summary. If not, that's okay. It's a lot. But I want to give you insight about my story here, not because I like to hear myself talk, but to really give you guys context about like how my experience was here, where I'm coming from, where I've been, and where I hopefully hope to go. Knock on wood. But yes, my name is Abena Marfo. I graduated from SMU in 2022. I graduated with my degrees in sociology, health and society, and human rights. And then right after graduation, I packed my bags and I moved to Emory and I received my master's in public health with an emphasis in global health and human rights. And I just graduated back in May, so we're done. If you guys ever see me back in school, I give you permission to ask me, what are you doing? Because I'm done with school. I am not going back after that. So I'm so glad I'm done with my master's. But I want to kind of go into the scope of what my time was here at SMU and how it even propelled me to even go continue on getting my degree. So as you know, I've been invited because I'm a first-gen student. And my freshman year was 2018 in the fall. And like many of you, I was very excited to start my college process, very excited to be on campus here at SMU, but I quickly realized I felt disconnected. So I was born and raised here in Dallas, raised by my mother who immigrated here from Ghana. And it was always just me, my mom, and my sister. And from the beginning of time, I always knew I was going to go to college. I knew college was the key. My mom was an educator here, and she always told me, just get your degree and you'll be fine. Like many of us are always told, get your degree and you'll be fine. Little do they tell you that there is a whole web of things you have to do before you even step foot on a college campus, such as applying for FAFSA, proving that you live in the state, writing personal statements, begging your counselors to submit things on time. Those are all the things that I didn't understand where to even start. And so, like many freshman students, I was very overwhelmed. I was very scared. But I took it upon myself to kind of Google. And before the ages of Chat GPT, we did solely use Google. So I Googled what the steps were, and I just started applying willy-nilly. I got accepted into SMU, but like many of us, the tuition was not cute. That sticker price wasn't the best. And I kind of was very quick to write myself off. And I think that's kind of the theme I want to really emphasize, is to not write yourself off. But I was very quick to write myself off. And thankfully I applied and I got the Mustang scholarship. So that's the background. I made it. Bam. Now we're in present day, quote unquote, 2018 freshman year. I came in like many first year students. I was like, I'm either going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, because those are the only three careers, right? I was constantly told that those are the three careers that are going to get you out of the circumstances that you might be a part of, or essentially be able to mobilize you into a different stage in your life. So I chose the easiest career path as a doctor, and I got I got into my chemistry class, and I realized, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. I was in the class full of students who done chemistry prep their summers, had doctors and lawyers as moms, had connections to the local hospitals here. And I very quickly realized, oh my gosh, learning from point A is actually not the start, because everyone else has started way before me. And I think that was like a very pivotal moment for me, because I was like, well, doesn't matter. I'm going to lock in. I'm going to persevere and continue through. And I want you to know that that is not the case that happened. I was miserable. I was crying every day. I almost failed, or I actually did fail chemistry. But then I took the step to drop the class. But I wanted to let you know that I dropped the class a day late, meaning that I had an F on my transcript. So I had to battle it out with the provost and finally made it out. And thankfully he granted me the W, and we're here. But that left me with the big question, what was I gonna do now? What am I doing? I don't wanna be a doctor. I don't know where I'm going from now. What do I do next? And I mentioned how I graduated with a sociology degree, but I wanted to let you guys know, like before I even got to SMU, I didn't even know what sociology was. I thought the only ologies that existed was anthropology and psychology, and that was it. So I wasn't exposed to any of these things. I wasn't really exposed to any of the classes. And so I took my first step, took a sociology class, and from there, my love of sociology continued to grow. And it was a bunch of happy accidents that led me to continue to grow in the sociology field. I still had my love of public health, but I continued and persisted, and I realized I can blend all of that together, which then led me to getting my health and society and my human rights degree. But I say all that to say is that there wasn't a clear path for me. I did not understand where I was going. And I actually had a conversation not too long ago with one of my friends, and I realized during that time at SMU, as I was growing and learning at SMU, I also realized I was growing and learning in ways that I couldn't relate with my mom. I would come home on the weekends, I would come home during break, and I would be so excited to tell my mom, oh, I learned this in this class, or I learned how to create this spreadsheet on Excel. And she wouldn't really understand, or she would be excited, but the excitement would only be to an extent because she never got exposed to this material. So it quickly made me realize, oh my goodness, like I feel very disconnected because in a way I feel guilty because I'm learning all these things and getting exposed to this new life of SMU. And I feel like I'm leaving my mom behind, or I'm leaving my household behind. I feel like a lot of students can really carry that burden. That's that invisible burden that a lot of people tend to not talk about. So going into this phase now, I'm graduated, I have my 3 degrees, but you would think the burden and the isolation and the idea of, oh, I made it out, what do I do next, would go away, right? I made it, but that was not the case at all. Nikole mentioned how first-gen students tend to be labeled as trailblazers, but I want to be very candid and honest. It's not all glamorous, and I think many of you can know that and attest to know that being a trailblazer is exhausting. I'm going to be so real with you. Everyone loves to talk about being the generation breaker, the cycle mover. You're making great strides and you're breaking, generational traumas and change. But it's very, very exhausting. And I'm just here to solidify and understand that I see you and I absolutely understand how that feels. Being at a school like SMU can probably be one of the most overwhelming, but also the most gratifying things if you don't find yourself finding a community such as Rotunda or such as the individuals that are sitting next to you today. And I want to be here to just emphasize the fact that it's okay to take the breaks and it's okay to unplug, because without that aspect of taking a break, you will crash and burn. And I can tell you, I had my crash and burn moment. Many of us first-gen students tend to feel like we have to be the sole providers once we graduate with our degrees to carry our families with us, whether that's financially, whether that's mentally or emotionally. And I want to talk about that in my aspect as well. I have a younger sister who actually just started college this year. And it was actually bestowed upon me to be the provider and the individual to tell my sister, this is exactly what you need to do to apply to college. But as you guys know, college has changed a lot. When I was applying to college, you had to take the ACT or SAT. There was affirmative action in place. FAFSA came out October 1st. But all of those things have all changed now because everything is moving. And I felt like I was doing a disservice because I did not have the same experience and I wasn't carrying my sister up as my mom expected me to be. I would like to ask a question. How many of you have siblings or come from a household with siblings? Yes. How many of you are older siblings? Okay, great. And as an older sibling, do you ever at times feel like the third or essentially the second parent? Yes, and I'm here to say that should not be a normal feeling, but unfortunately, especially as a first-gen student, but just as a sibling in general, that is the case. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, or the battle really starts to come up when you are in this space of learning and in this space of learning everything as well, because although we're digesting this for the first time, our families kind of already have the understanding that, oh, well, you got exposed to this, you know this, you're the expert now. Carry your siblings with you, carry your family with you. And that was probably one of the hardest things I had to come to terms with, because right after graduating from SMU, I'm thinking, well, I should be making six figures now. I should be able to carry my family with me, and I should be able to break us out of this crazy hindrance of not going to school. The key is to go to school, right? What's next? So I follow up, continuing on with my journey in Atlanta, and I think that was probably the biggest transition thing I had to do, was to essentially, quote unquote, be selfish and move away from my family to pursue a higher education. Many of us, I know, especially as first generation students, have big plans to continue on to schools, whether you want to be a lawyer, whether you want to go on and continue your education. And I think that's another layer that oftentimes people feel hindrance about, because you're spending money, you're spending the effort, and you're spending the time to continue your education or continue a passion such as a fellowship or anything else. And there was a time and there was a moment in time when I almost didn't go to grad school because I felt like I had to stay back to help my mom and to help my sister go on with their journeys and pursue them to the next level. But I want to, pardon me, but I want to also emphasize that you cannot be in a space of leveling everybody up unless you level yourself up, and unless you really understand that I need to take care of myself first before I do that for anybody else. And I bring these droplets of things within the first gen because I feel like this is the first gen experience. Like, you're always labeled as a trailblazer, but you're also always dragging other people along with you, and you're kind of expected to know everything on the fly. But I think that's also in a way our superpower, because I know so many of us that know how to wing it, that know how to ask the questions, and that kind of shed that fear of, well, I'm not afraid of looking stupid anyways. I don't know this. I might as well ask. And I want to encourage you guys to continue that. Well, I really want to transition now to this portion of my main meat of what I want to say, which is they need you more than you need them. Now that I'm out of the university setting and I'm in the workspace, and I still do label myself as a first generation student because that's will forever be carried with me, I want you guys to know that in your time here at SMU, especially those of you that are in your freshman and your sophomore years, please know that it is a great honor and a great thing for you to be admitted into a school, especially such as the stature of SMU. But I also want you to remind yourself that they also need you. This isn't something that you should kind of put your head down or be like, oh, I'm so thankful I even got in. Like, I barely even made it. I should just kind of keep my head down, stay on my path, and get out in the 4 years. But I want you to know that this school is also looking good because you guys are doing amazing things. As first generation students, you guys are doing things that are unheard of. There are not a lot of students that could have made it through the process of applying to colleges. A lot of us probably didn't even know that when you were filling out FAFSA, you had to get your parents' tax returns, or a lot of our parents didn't fill out their tax returns, or if you had to come to a school on time to come and tour. But these are all the things you've done to overcome, and now you're in this room and you're getting the degrees that you're getting, and you're meeting the people that you're meeting. But I really want you guys to know that you need to walk around with your head held high, knowing that I deserve to be here. Whether that's through scholarship, whether that's through loans, whether that's through your working, it doesn't matter. You belong to be here. And I think if that was the one thing I can change going back in time, is to really have my shoulders higher and understanding that, well, I did my due diligence. I got in here just like anybody else did. So walk around and take advantage. I cannot tell you guys enough that the connections and the people that you meet in this room will follow you all the days of your life. The people and the friends that you make will be your network. And I know we're probably tired of that buzzword of like network, get on LinkedIn, meet people. But as a first generation student, I cannot emphasize that enough. You need to do that, because unfortunately, even though you're walking into these rooms and you're meeting people, if you do not have people on your side, or if you don't have people to ask questions about, it's going to be a bit hard, or sometimes it's going to be a lot more frustrating to figure out what exactly you need to do or where you need to go if you don't open up your mouth and ask. So I think the people that are sitting next to you, even your peers in your chemistry classes or your lecture halls or in your theater classes, these are going to be your peers. These are going to be your coworkers one day. So make those networks and connections, but also understand that you shouldn't see yourself as less than just because you don't know. So keep that in your heart all in all, but also continue to strive through and ensure that you not only continue to persevere, but if you need to take the break to unplug, do that. I feel like there's a lot of hate with taking a break or saying I don't have the capacity to do that, especially going to SMU with people having 4 to 5 degrees and people having 1,000 minors. I want you to know it's okay to know your capacity and limit. And so ensure that you take that into mind and continue to keep in mind that you're doing this for the first time, so it's okay to mess up. This is the perfect bubble to mess up. I can't emphasize that enough. So make the mistakes, be selfish with your time and yourself, but also keep your head high and know that I am here and they need me more than I need. They need me more than I need them. So yeah, that's just a tidbit I wanted to say. But honestly, I'm really excited to kind of transfer or continue on this conversation by making a pause. I want to open the floor for questions, and then I can continue talking about a few of my experiences. But like I said, I want to be a resource. I really want to tailor this conversation and lecture towards the questions that you have, because I know sometimes you won't even know the questions to ask unless you just talk or have a conversation. So I really want to be that resource and open the floor up, if that's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah.
When you decided to drop chemistry,
Yeah.
how did you make that decision, and how did that impact you? Because you want to be a doctor.
I did.
I know medical athletes, it's crazy. You get worried about having the double chemistry.
I did.
How did you finally make that this needs to happen?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do, but I'm going to figure it out.
That's a good question. So I give you the mic because I wanted everyone to hear the question, but her question was essentially like, what did I do after I dropped chemistry and I thought that was the end of my life? I will be so honest with you, I cried. I went to my dorm, I went under the covers and I cried because I thought, okay, well, since I'm not going to be a doctor, I'm never going to make it out of here, and I failed. But the biggest thing I realized was I had to be honest. I went and I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I don't want to do this. This isn't my passion. And I think there's a lot of rhetoric about follow your passion or follow the money, don't follow your passion. The passion will come later. But I'm here to tell you, if you do not somewhat intertwine your passion with what you're doing, everything you're going to do is going to be miserable. So once I failed, or yes, I did fail chemistry and I officially dropped it, that's when I decided to kind of take a break from it. I was very stubborn. I didn't quit pre-med all the way. I was like, you know what, I'll come back and try again next year. But that's when I told you I found sociology, and that kind of led me down the path of public health. And it quickly opened a door and made me realize there are 20 billion different maneuvers and roles and experiences you can do in the world of medicine that doesn't involve being a doctor. And so that's where I found my niche. That's where I found my passion. And I think it was I had to do an internal breakup. I had to break up from the idea that I wasn't going to be a doctor, which I think is very hard. But also if you yourself, this is your passion, do it. But if you know you're doing it for the sake of just I'm just going to be a doctor to make my parents proud, I promise you the decisions you make are going to outlive your parents, and you're going to be left being a doctor, and that's not your passion. Another question?
I just want to ask, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. But I want to ask, if there was one, what was the conversation with your family members about telling them that you needed to prioritize yourself and your education, and what was that sort of conversation of we need to depart now?
Yeah. So there indeed was a conversation about that, and it actually came about my senior year, or my senior year, and also this year. So first, my senior year, when I had the conversation to my mom that I wanted to go out of state, I told her I'm going to Emory and I'm going to get this master's and this is what I want to do. Surprisingly, guys, your parents will shock you, okay? As you get older, your parents will shock you because they're also growing, so have some grace. But I had the conversation with my mom and my mom was all for it. She actually was like, you know what? You're young now. You have no ties. Go. Do it. She was more worried if I could afford it or not, but I crunched the numbers with her. I showed her I was fine, and she sent me on my way. But we had a second conversation actually because I'm back in Dallas. If you don't know, I officially work here now, and I'm trying to be a responsible young adult, so I'm living at home. And that has brought up a new conversation where I told you, my sister was applying to schools. She thankfully now goes to UNT. But there was a weird dynamic that my mom was kind of like, oh, your sister needs to do this, you do it for her. Or your sister needs this, you should do it for her. And the conversation came up, I was like, Mom, I'm kind of feeling like I'm a parent. Like, I'm 24, why am I doing this? Like, I feel like this should be something you do. And it was a hard conversation to have because, you know, I hate to say it, parents are the best guilt trippers, okay? They can guilt trip you. And she was like, but you know, I'm a single mom, like you're my only help. And I told her, I can help you, but there's gonna be a point where this is my capacity. And I was very transparent with her. I was like, this is the time I have. I love my sister, but I also wanna ensure that our relationship is like a sisterly one, not a motherly one. And this is what the time and the capacity I have. And she understood. But I'm also gonna be very transparent. You need to be firm on your boundaries because, especially with family, when it comes to things like that, because we're so comfortable with each other and you live in the same house, they're gonna go across your boundaries sometimes. They're gonna be like, well, you should just do this, or like your cousins do that, why can't you do that? But you really need to be firm in that because in the long run, that's only gonna make you into a better, more peaceful, more stress-free person, which then you can radiate that off everybody else. Yeah. Yeah, I'll pass it up to her.
Hello.
Hi.
I just had a question. Was there ever a struggle with balancing, like, in that same vein, family expectations with your own, like, academic and social aspirations and goals?
Absolutely. Hi back. Yes, I would say that there was a huge balance, but also there is something that I feel like we don't talk about enough is that there sometimes might not even be family pressure, but it's the internal pressure you put on yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing you really need to clock is like, is this pressure coming from me or is this pressure specifically coming from my family? And this actually happened in grad school. So I had the amazing chance to go to Jamaica for spring break. And I didn't tell my mom. And the only reason I didn't tell my mom was because it wasn't because I was scared, like, oh, she's going to tell me no. Like, girl, I bought the ticket. But it was because I felt guilty. Because me and my mom were talking on the phone, we were checking on each other. She's like, I'm so tired. I wish I could go on vacation, but I can't. I don't have any time off. And I felt guilty that I couldn't afford to bring her and me on a vacation. So I didn't tell her I went on vacation. And these are the things, the invisible like experiences I feel like first-gen students go through a lot. Even here at SMU, I had the chance to go to a play. I went to go see Hamilton. SMU paid for us to go. It was an amazing experience, but I felt guilty because I was like, dang, I wish I could bring my sister. I wish my mom could see this. I wish my, whatever family member could experience the same things you're experiencing. So I think it's very easy to kind of feel that guilt because you're experiencing amazing things or things that you know your parents or your guardian has never experienced before. But I urge you to know that you are starting out your life and these decisions that you're making for yourself is all new and you deserve to make those decisions because your parents at some point had decisions to make as well. And I'm not sitting here saying that, oh, well, they don't deserve nice things. What I am saying is that I promise you your parents are going to want you to experience these nice things because that's the reason they made the sacrifice, right? That's the reason a lot of our parents either came here, decided to ensure that they work so that they can provide for you to get to this level. So you really need to have the internal dialogue of, okay, am I guilting myself because I feel like I don't deserve nice things, or am I guilting myself because my parents are actually putting pressure on me? And if they are putting pressure on you, then that's when that conversation needs to happen. Yeah. Don't be scared. We went to the same high school together.
Yes.
That's such a good one. That's kind of deep. Okay. What's one piece of advice? Okay, if you can't tell, I'm very awkward. I'm a proud, awkward Black girl. I'm very shy. Surprisingly, I'm very shy. But if there's one thing I can tell myself is to embrace all my quirks. I think coming in, I didn't know there was like a label for a first gen student. And so I was very shy and I was actually very ashamed of like, dang, like I'm first gen, like, girl, I don't want to be a charity case. But I want you to know like it is so important to, I don't want to say label yourself, but to embrace your experiences and how people define them. Let them define them, but ensure that you're so solid in how you define them. If I could go back, I wish I was more aware of my perspective and knowing that my experience and my life experience is just enough. Like it is great. It's more than enough. It's very unique. Also, if I could go back, I wish I was smart enough to leverage myself more. A lot of people want to hear from y'all. I hope y'all know that. Like people want to pick your brains. So you better charge for it. You better like I'm being so serious. You guys don't understand that you are the voice, you're the feet on the ground. You guys have you have the post on this university. So leverage yourself, make yourself into a brand. I'm not saying you gotta post yourself on social media, but know that like, hey, this is how I roll. This is my standard. This is how I define myself, and be proud in that. Because if not, you're going to mesh into this school in a very fast way into something that you might not recognize or something that you don't even know. Like, oh wait, that's not really what I want to do. But like people will put you into that box because for them it's easy to categorize them into that. But just be strong in that. So if I could go back, I would do that. I promise I don't bite. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'll tell you straight up. Okay, Tulsi.
Hey, Bina, so
Hi.
on your last point, when you talked about you could potentially mention to the school and not recognize yourself, have you ever had any experiences or as a peer counselor or as a fellow of someone go through those ways? Because I think sometimes, at least like myself, like I feel like I have to like be a different version of myself or this ideal version, and I think a lot of Christians deal with that. So do you have any advice on that? Experiences you've been mentoring people?
Yes, great question. Definitely I have advice. And I feel like one thing's for sure, like I'm not the end all be all. So please, I always say this when I give advice, take everything I say with a grain of salt because I might not know your exact situation. So I might not know everything. I know I'm only 24, y'all. Like I'm so close to y'all. So we are learning as we're going together. But the biggest advice I would say is that in order for you to not feel like you're losing yourself or meshing into an environment or a scene that you've never been a part of, you really, really, really need to embrace and kind of reconnect with yourself. And that looks like so many things, whether that's going back home and eating your mom's cooking, whether that's taking time, and if you're spiritual, whether that's going to church or a mosque or whatever it is. But then the biggest thing for me, this is going to sound so cheesy, but this is how I reconnected with myself. I am a memory hoarder. I save all my pictures and I use Snapchat to save them. So I would go back and like scroll through my old Snapchats back when I was in high school and just look at the videos and the pictures and all the collages that are made. And I'll just look at them like, dang, like that was me. Like this is who I am. And also if you do have friends in high school, reconnect with that. That was my saving grace. I would like on the weekends or even Thanksgiving holidays or whatever break you have, go reconnect with your high school friends because I promise you will snap right back into like your roots and how you are. But also I want you to be aware that like the growth, don't mistake the misshape and meshing as a bad thing all the time because growth does happen. So if you feel like you're outgrowing certain things at home, that also shouldn't be seen as a bad thing. But ensure that like your core personality and your moral compass, if you know that's off or like something's wrong, go into those tactics of reconnecting and kind of planting yourself. So you and yeah.
How did you, or I don't know if you
Yeah.
that, or what advice would you
Mm-hmm. Imposter syndrome. I knew this was going to come up because I feel like it's very parallel with the first gen experience. Because if we're being real, like I said, 90% of my time here, I was winging it, y'all. Like, I was asking questions. I was like, okay, am I doing this right? If not, oh, well, I did it. I'll ask for forgiveness. If not, we'll do it right the next time. But imposter syndrome is real. I've been through it a lot. I think surprisingly, I feel like for me, imposter syndrome actually came at my high points. Like when I was receiving awards or when I was getting into my grad schools, I was like, did I make a mistake? Like, is this right? What? And the biggest thing I have to tell you is that you really, really, I don't want to say that you have to like dig it down deep in your brain and like put it there and never look back at it, but you really do. For me, I like to sometimes just read through my resume. I'm being so for real. I like to read through my resume like, girl, you did that. Oh my gosh, you did that. Oh my gosh, I did get 3 degrees. Okay, I'm okay. I know what I'm talking about. Or this is, I need y'all to get in the habit, and it's going to sound so crazy. It really is. But Google yourself. I'm being so for real. Google yourself and see what comes up. You'll be surprised what comes up, whether it's your Instagram page or an article about you or anything that you've done after school. Google yourself, because 9 times out of 10 is like really pretty cool stuff. And the thing that really makes me realize, okay, it's cool, is reading things that other people have written about you in their perspective, or even talking to your friends about like, hey girl, like, why are you my friend? Like, tell me what draws you to me. Those are things that cure a lot of imposter syndrome. And then the final thing is like, I don't want to say it ever goes away, but I think the voice gets quieter as you're more comfortable in the space that you're in. Like right now, I'm 6 months into my first big girl job, y'all. When they hired me and they gave me my first data set, I was like, girl, I am about to give y'all the wrong thing and this whole thing is going to explode. Like, I was really like, okay. But the thing that you really need to know is that, be honest, that your best gift in combating imposter syndrome is being transparent. Like, I know how to do this, but I can't do this, but this is how I'm going to do this. Or I know that I can do this very well, but I can do this, but I can't do that. Because if you like start to like be like, oh, well, actually I do know how to do this, or lie on a resume, they're going to catch you. And I feel like you'll fuel that imposter syndrome. But just know the stuff you're good at, plant your feet in it, and then also don't be afraid to try different things and know that you're human and you're going to mess up. Yeah. Can you pass that? Okay, that's the last question, y'all. Yeah, so you're...
Okay, so the majority of us in here are Rotunda scholars. 100% of change experience at SMU.
Mm-hmm.
Would it help you?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Okay, great question to end it off with. Rotunda was my saving grace, and I'm not even exaggerating. That same timeline of me failing chemistry happened my freshman year, and I was very tempted. I actually thought I was going to transfer out and go to UT. I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm leaving here. This wasn't made for me. I'm going to go hook 'em. Thank God I did not. Like I said, I came freshman year. It was actually a 4-year program. So I went through the revamp my sophomore year, but I had an amazing counselor. Her name was Krisha, and she sat me down and she was very real. She was like, you failing this class is not the end of the world, but I will say you're going to have to fight uphill to ensure that your GPA is good. And we're going to find like different resources for you. Rotunda plugged me into the peer counselors. I was able to connect with people that are older than me. I'm friends with these peer counselors to this day. Lexi, Anthony, so many of these individuals. In addition to that, I also was really exposed to SMU through their eyes. So it kind of like allowed me to dip my feet into SMU instead of like getting drowned head first during chorale or like Mustang orientation. I don't know what they call it now. Stampede, yes. And so I think it shaped me for the better, and also it gave me community. Like I keep mentioning, Nikole was so pivotal, and I'm so thankful she came my sophomore year, because as Rotunda was shaping, I was also being shaped and grown, and without it, I don't think I would have had the confidence to apply to the RA position or go for another major. I think we often discount ourselves before we do something, and so Rotunda was like that extra push to be like, what's holding you back? You haven't gone to denial yet, so just do it. Yeah. But that's it. Thank you.
Wow, what a great speech. And I truly hope that you all learned something from Abena and her experience here on the hilltop. She has been such a great mentor and friend. You heard it from Dylan, you heard it from me, and I'm sure you can ask anyone who was on campus, either when she was here or shortly thereafter. Her legacy will be felt for many more classes and generations to come. And so, thank you so much for listening to this first episode of the Rotunda Roundup. If you were unable to join us live for the Evolve Lecture Series, don't you worry. We'll be recording them and uploading them here on this very podcast. But also, we'll have a speaker series event every semester, which first years, this can count for an event credit. Find out more information on our website, smu.edu/Rotunda Scholars, or on Instagram @Rotunda Scholars. If you know someone who would be a great speaker for the lecture series event, reach out to us, and also learn more about other things that we're doing at the Rotunda Scholars Program on our socials, or by stopping by the Academic Center for Excellence or the Scholars Den. Until next time, see you soon and pony up.